Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Local Government Commission to order. I would first like to turn it over to Dave to read our opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody, and particularly good morning to the new Local Government Commission, including our newest members, Representative Miller, Senators Kim and Kiefer. This meeting is being conducted with member staff and public participation in person and by live stream and is being recorded. On February 10th, 2025, notice of the meeting was posted on the committee meeting pages for both the House and Senate through the Legislative Data Processing Center, and members of the commission received direct notification the same day. The meeting agenda was posted outside of the commission offices and on the commission website Monday, February 24th, 2025. Member comments and questions will be addressed during the meeting for both in-person and remote participants. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, David. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the January 29th, 2025 meeting. Those minutes were forwarded to the members previously, and wanted to know if do we have a motion to approve the minutes as offered? Representative Sappi. We have a second. Senator Kiefer. Any questions or comments on the minutes from the January 29th meeting? Seeing no questions or comments, any negative votes on approval of the minutes? No negative votes. The minutes from the January 29th, 2025 meeting have been approved. Next, we'll move to the financial reports for January, and I will turn it back over to David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the benefit of the newest members of the commission, we always, in the interest of transparency, disclose our expenditures from the preceding month, subject to the approval of the commission. We have a list of all of our outstanding appropriation years and expenditures from those years. And in the enumerated pages under item 3 in your packet, you will see the individual outlays that were used for the particular expenditures that are accrued on the front page of the item 3. So you will see out of our 24-25 appropriation, our regular monthly expenditures were $90,351.29. Those are listed and accrued on the following enumerated pages. And we expended out of our 22-23 appropriation $12,449.07 for purposes of annuitant healthcare premiums that the commission is required to carry, bringing our total for the month of January to $102,800.36, leaving us with an accrued balance of commission funds for all 3 appropriation years outstanding of $2.378692 million. Also, you will see on the enumerated pages the individual expenditures. All of those are carrying costs related to staff and retirement and healthcare. There is nothing exceptional except for the aforementioned employee annuitant benefits that went out on January 22nd, and the postage for the House of Representatives for the distribution of the second-class Township Code Supplement number 2 of $184.59. If anybody has any questions on the financial report, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Any questions or comments on the financial reports? Seeing no questions, comments, do we have a motion to approve the financial reports for January 2025?
So moved.
Seconded.
Representative James, Representative Freeman. Any negative votes on approval of the financials? Hearing no negatives, the financial reports for January are approved. Next, we will turn back to Dave, and we will first, Dave, if you could explain for the new members how we work through our legislative agenda for the upcoming session, and then we will talk about individual bills and whether we want to proceed with each and every one of them. So, Dave, I'll turn that back over
Thank
to
you,
you.
Mr. Chairman. The commission works by consensus. We prefer, and it's been our policy, that we have the agreement of all 10 members for the introduction of any legislative proposal. It's important that when commission legislation gets to the General Assembly, they have an understanding that it is truly a unified effort. We introduced 19 bills last session, 9 of which became law. That's a pretty good track record. And I think part of the reason that we enjoy that track record is because of that process that I just mentioned. Now, the exciting part is that we have fresh eyes on these bills. And it's important in the interest of consensus that we work to improve these pieces to the point that they are satisfactory to each and every member. So with our new members, we are bringing in front of you in item 4 in your packet those bills that remained at the end of the legislative session, last legislative session, 23-24. We will address these individually. Many of them you have probably seen before as members of the General Assembly or the Commission itself. But if you have questions on language or policy, we can address that at this time. And again, we're looking for the consensus of all the members before we address introduction. I hope that was satisfactory, Mr. Chairman. Did I miss anything?
No, that was great. And just to notify the members, what we are doing today, we are going to talk first about the consensus. And then if we find consensus on a bill, we will need individual prime sponsors. Many of these bills were, the prime sponsors want to remain as the prime sponsors, but in some cases, we may ask for volunteers who wish to be the prime sponsors of these bills. And do we have okay, I guess that's good. So Dave, if we could work through the package.
Yes, sir. The first bill on item 4 in your packet, you have the actual text of Senate Bill 749, which was primed by Senator Dush for the commission last session. And this arose from the innovations that were placed in the first-class township code. This law has already been integrated, as I mentioned, into the first-class township code and the borough code. And what it provides for is a bit of equity for members of the governing body who may decide on the expenditure of township funds in such a way that they're relying on the opinion of the solicitor to authorize the expenditure of the funds. In such a case, the members of the elected governing body, if the solicitor's opinion is given in a transparent way, should be protected from a potential surcharge by the Board of Auditors or the independent auditor of the township. It seems equitable that if you are relying on the township solicitor's opinion, the members of the governing body should not be individually punished for that decision. And that's the way surcharge works. Surcharge works where it goes into the individual pocket of the member of the governing body who voted in a manner that causes a financial loss to the township. The other innovation in this particular bill would permit associations, LLCs, corporations to act as a township manager. This is separate from the existing mechanism for a contract, a 2-year contract, or hiring an employee. This provides municipalities additional flexibility for part-time managers and depth of bench in a situation where you're dealing with an association or firm that has full expertise in the entire spectrum of municipal law, everything from land use to stormwater to personnel and HR issues. Again, this is about flexibility for municipalities, in this case, townships of the second class. Again, this innovation already exists in 2 of the codes, and this is another thing that is a commission policy. Where it makes sense, we like to harmonize the codes with the same administrative and legal mechanisms. Where it makes sense, there's a reason for a distinction of the classifications of municipalities, but this is one of those innovations that has proven to be useful, at least in past legislation. So if there are any questions on the text of Senate Bill 749, at this point, we can discuss them. Again, if we have issues that need to be revisited that the members wish us to take another look at, we can table the bills and revisit them for a later meeting.
Okay, I will call on Senator Kiefer. I guess she has a question. Yes. Yes. Yep. Oh. Yes. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I read this bill and understood it, this was providing for an actual official to not be responsible for an action that they took, an unofficial action. But as the way you explained it was that if the township supervisors took a vote based upon the advice or counsel of their solicitor, then they wouldn't be responsible for that. So is it if they took, at one place it says unofficial, but here it said, you explained it as they took a vote.
Yes, it's applicable to the township supervisors, but it's also applicable to other municipal officials as well if they somehow caused a loss through their official action on to the township, because officials are liable to surcharge other than supervisors as well.
Oh, okay, all right, so it's capturing them as well. So if they made a vote based upon council's advice, they're not responsible for that. So is there any accountability for the solicitor? Is there any accountability for the solicitor then?
Under the rules of professional responsibility, the malpractice insurance, if that would come into play, their policy could be invoked upon if that were in fact the case. If it worked out to an erroneous opinion, the issue that we were trying to deal with was to encourage municipalities to consult with their legal consultants, officials of the governing body and other officials, if there was any doubt as to the propriety of an expenditure.
Okay, do you know of any cases where they've taken that type of action as far as recourse on the solicitor's rule of professional responsibilities?
I'm not aware of any specific actions against professional liability insurance on the part of an attorney who has given an erroneous opinion that has resulted in a surcharge of a municipal official.
Okay, that's just making sure that we have some accountability built into this, because I have had issues in various municipalities with information that was provided or some conflicting understandings between the solicitors and their boards, post decision. So I have a little bit of pause there, just waiving everybody of responsibility. And the second part is, second question I have, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Okay, second one is, so it also allows for municipalities to contract with third parties to provide management services. One concern I have there with that is similar to many municipalities will contract with codes enforcement officers and various things like that currently. And I get a lot of calls in my office from constituents. It's difficult to contact those individuals. They have to travel to another municipality to meet with them. There's a lot of, it's an issue of access, and you should be able to redress your government. And sometimes those lines can get blurred when you're farming that out to third-party agencies.
And Senator, I think that's an excellent point, and that is something that if the constituents had complaints about management services through a firm or association, they could make those known to the governing body. All this does is provide them additional flexibility. The paradigmatic example that we gave that we were looking at when this piece was being formed, or when it was formed in the first class township code, is you may have municipalities that can't afford a full-time manager. And consequently, they may need professional management services, but they may not need them on a regular 37.5 hour work week, may not have to carry the employment carrying cost, and may not want to enter into a contract with an individual. So consequently, they could use those management services and the flexibility on a cheaper, more temporary basis if they chose to.
Thank you. Yes, I do understand that. I have many of those municipalities that have part-time managers and or contracts with individuals for a set number of hours and services. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Other questions or comments on the legislation? Do we have any online?
Negative.
Okay, I'll ask the members if they feel comfortable proceeding with this bill. Do we have a consensus among members here?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Thank you. And we will move to the next piece. Thank you, Dave. David?
Senator, should we attempt to get prime sponsors for these pieces? I don't know if Senator Dush would want to prime this piece again, or if
I think the default should be to go to him. And
Yeah.
then if not, we'll get somebody else.
okay. And do we have a House sponsor?
Any of the House
I will
members?
do that.
Representative James?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to prime sponsor that one.
Excellent. Thank you. So we can move on to the next. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This next bill arose from the commission staff's relationship with the State Planning Board. The State Planning Board is a body that is provided for in the administrative code. They work with DCED, and they advise. They are an advisory body. They do not make law or regulation, and they advise the General Assembly and the department specifically on planning issues. They just issued a 2023 report requesting 3 legislative innovations to the municipalities planning code. But as you can see from the summary in the bill, one issue that arose is we have the implications of emergencies and historical property that are more and more prominent in land use decisions of municipalities, form-based zoning, that sort of thing. Consequently, we thought it would be a good idea, and we sponsored legislation that would place a member of the Museum and Historical Commission and a member of PEMA on the State Planning Board to allow them to provide their expertise formally to any decisions on land use or recommendation that involved emergencies or historical property. And it's my understanding that if the commission decides to move forward with this, Representative Sappi was interested in prime sponsoring it again.
Thank you. Do we have any comments, questions from the members? Representative Miller?
Thank you. And I'm not sure whose microphone is on, but it wasn't me. Thank you for that. I have some questions. This bill and its corollary, House Bill 1231, were at least House Bill 1231 was subject to significant debate over in the House. Representative Russ Diamond had an amendment which I thought was very helpful that didn't get into the bill, lost by 1 vote. And I think for my part, I would like to put this on hold, that we could address this at least for now. Concept, I don't have a problem with the concept of this advisory body helping out with an emergency situation, but I think there's some language issues in there. The Diamond Amendment was one, and I think that was the main question I had about that at this point.
If you could address that, Dave.
Of course, I recall the debate quite well, Representative, and I think his concerns were not, and correct me if I'm recalling this incorrectly, his concerns were not with the commission's initiative. His concerns were with the existing language that is reflected on, I believe, on page 2 and lines 14 through 19. And I think Representative Diamond was concerned that there should be further innovation in this law to allow, other than the PPT and the speaker, the appointment of the legislative members. Now, typically, the commission encourages that commission bills run clean. But the members always obviously have the prerogative to amend the bills, and that innovation would be outside of our charge, but I think it's worth mentioning that that innovation would not interfere with the central purpose of the commission's goal with this bill.
Yeah, I would agree. It was basically who appoints those positions, which would be in keeping with the standard practice now, which I think that was a helpful consideration. I think it obviated certain other problems that could result without that language. But the main gist of the bill would continue forward. So for that reason, I'm not sure how things work here on the commission, but if that, before the actual language is introduced, potentially as a commission bill, that could be fixed prior to its release. So those are my comments at this point. Thank you.
Senator Kiefer.
I shared similar concerns as Representative Miller on this. And if we're going to address this legislation and this issue, it's my opinion that we should correct it to address all of the issues in one time. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if that is the consensus of the members of the commission, we can make that change so it's harmonized with other similar board appointment laws to those particular two provisions, along with the commission and innovation, and introduce it that way, if the commission feels that's the way to go.
Dave, I'll ask you if you could just put that together, and we can discuss this once we have the words in writing and
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we can take it up at the next.
We'll bring back
next
another
meeting.
draft.
Super. Thank you. All righty.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Representative James.
Just need to know the bill number from last session, the one we're discussing currently.
In the House, it was House Bill 1231. And in the Senate, it was Senate Bill 766.
Thank you very much. That's it.
Very good. David?
The next bill is a vestige of some joint meetings that were held by the House and Senate local government committees in the wake of COVID with the municipal associations and the local government commission. There were two legislative initiatives that followed from that, other than the emergency legislation that was passed during the COVID emergency. And this one addresses an archaic provision of law in Title 53 of Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes, which provides only for continuity of government. In other words, the seat of government being located out of the municipality, and contingent officials if, God forbid, something should happen to an elected governing body. The current mechanisms in law in Title 53 only apply in the case of an enemy attack. So the commission introduced legislation in the wake of the COVID emergency that would expand that to include any type of an emergency as defined within the bill. It would authorize expressly, in the case of an emergency declared by the locality or the governor, for meetings to be held outside of the municipal limits in an adjacent or nearby municipality. Furthermore, it stepped out how a governing body could put together a list of contingent municipal officials that would act in the stead of the governing body in the case of an emergency. And finally, there is language in there that deals specifically with remote meetings. In the case that a municipality is required by statute to have a physical quorum during an emergency, a local or statewide emergency, the governing body could hold remote meetings for up to 20 days. After that, they could only extend holding remote meetings pursuant to a resolution that indicates that they're in compliance with the gubernatorial emergency declaration. So this is intended to anticipate other types of emergencies and cure an anachronism that is currently within Title 53.
Do we have any comments from the members? Representative Miller.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I noticed that this bill passed 50-0 last session, but we didn't have the opportunity to look into this bill in the House. So I never did until now. So I have some questions about this, and again, not from a policy standpoint of fixing the anachronism, but there's some language issues in here that without, I don't know if this is the time and place to enumerate all of them, but just a number of questions about some of the language in here that, at least for my part, I would like to put on hold for the time being, if you could.
Come
And
on
then-
now, I got your notes.
I might just have
Again, that wasn't me. So, yeah, there's just some language questions that for my part would like to be cleared up if that's acceptable.
Fire away.
Right now, or
If you could raise some of the, I mean, maybe you can't raise all the issues right now, but if you see some that jump out, let us know, and then we can
well, sure.
maybe start a work through here.
Okay, page 3, line 19, talks about authorization. This, as you know, during this shutdown several years ago and the emergency declaration, that was an extremely hot button issue that resulted in a constitutional change, which is a big deal. A lot of people are very sensitive to this issue. Page 3, line 19, during an emergency, I would add the word only if the conditions that have rendered the meeting, et cetera. I mean, it's a simple thing, but what we don't want to do is have people approach this from, I want to say, a less than true emergent situation. That would be one. And then line 29, I would add some sort of phraseology that would, again, make certain that it's only in the circumstance where it's an unsafe situation. Those would be 2 areas. I'm looking at page 4, line 19 and following section E. It talks about extended emergency meeting authorization prohibited. Just the language of this section might be clear, but I'm going to need some extra assistance on it, because to me, if the extended emergency meeting authorization prohibited, and it goes on to say the authorization to conduct meetings, I would strike the words by authorized telecommunication device. Strike those words. Under this section shall expire after the 21st day, period. To make sure that this can't be extended in perpetuity like we saw in years past. I just want it to be abundantly clear that if there's going to be an emergency situation, it's going to have to be renewed in a timely fashion after a period of time, and not just in perpetuity like what we saw several years ago. Now, again, that language might be okay, and I know David Green helps me work through a lot of that when I have questions. Those are a couple of the items offhand. Page 5, line 29, in the bill, they basically take out the word attack, as that was the original source of the emergency situation, but then section 7 has a definition of attack. But yet it's nowhere else in the bill because it's been removed, but there it is in the bill. So I was curious to know about page 5, line 29.
Yeah, that's an LRB convention. I think that's the way that they introduced the section, because it's right after section 7, Representative.
Okay.
So that is not actually going to become part of the law. It's just a narrative introduction to the amendment that's occurring within the law.
But should that be struck because there's no longer any reference to attack anywhere?
Can I weigh in?
Sure.
Yeah, the definition of attack is removed on page 6, and I think where you're referring on line 29 on page 5 is just simply LRB language notifying the reader of the bill that the next portion of the bill removes that language from the bill.
Okay,
So the word attack would not appear in the law once the bill took effect.
okay. I guess I have to understand the LRB way of things in that regard, because if it's not going to appear in the law, then why would it appear in the bill?
Because the bill basically I often find this confusing, the way that the LRB convention works. The bill will have bill sections, and the bill section will say, section blah, blah, blah of the law is amended. And that language, that section 7 at the bottom of page 5, if we're talking about the same thing, and maybe I'm misunderstanding you, and that's entirely possible. But where it says the definition of attack in section 1133 is amended, that is simply telling you that 1133 is amended in the following portion of the bill, and you can see that that attack is bracketed out. So
Okay.
that's only bill language. That's not future statutory language if the bill is amended.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Those are the main, there might be a
Thank you.
couple other things, but those are the main ones.
Thank you, and we appreciate that input. It gives Dave a starting point to look at this.
Yes, I
for-
think
for
that
future
if
consideration.
Representative Miller has some time,
Sure.
we can work through some of these observations and bring back to the commission something that reflects those observations.
Thank you for your input, Senator Kiefer.
Thank you. My concern is I have a lot of areas in my district without broadband, so to access these meetings is difficult. During the emergency, they were unable to call into the offices. They were closed. People were not returning messages. So citizens have a right to address their government, and I think this is a barrier. If it is safe enough for these individuals to meet, to take emergency actions, I think, the public should be able to make that call for themselves if they would like to attend that meeting. But to just say, as long as they're able to call in, even phone service isn't the greatest if they've gotten rid of their landlines sometimes. So that gives me pause after going through what we just went through with COVID and the actions that were taken and the lack of response from government.
I'm just going to comment and say what our intent, I believe, was to say, if there is an extreme emergency, we should allow for this, but that should only be in an extreme situation. And we we very carefully tried to say that this should not be, we think it's an emergency because certain people can't show up for the meeting, so we're just going to have it all online. And there is a group of individuals who want that complete online ability to have all meetings and all attendance and all that. But we don't think that makes for the best public policy coming out of these local elected bodies. And so we're trying to really narrow the scope so that it is in extreme situations, they can meet, make some decisions, but get back very quickly to meeting in person, allowing people to come before their body and express their opinions on the things that are being voted upon. So again, there are many who think we should allow this more flexibility for meeting online, but I think we threaded the needle pretty decently with this, the way we have it written. Dave, do you have some further comment on that?
Yeah, it's worth noting that I think all of the associations are on the record saying that they prefer in-person meetings, to Senator Kiefer's point. they like the flexibility of being able to have remote meetings. And there may be disagreement with commission policy in the past on that particular issue. And as Chairman Hutchinson said, we were trying to thread the needle. To Senator Kiefer's point, if the governing body, this piece would allow them, let's say that there is a broken water line that renders it impossible to have a municipal meeting in the municipal building. Again, we're talking about flexibility here. This piece would expressly allow them to conduct meetings outside of the borough limits in that scenario in a physical capacity, with or without any sort of formal statewide declaration of an emergency.
I was just going to highlight that one of the examples that we talked through in crafting this was many school districts have their schools outside of a borough limits where you have a small borough within a larger township and things along those lines. Borrowing the school cafeteria might be unauthorized for a borough in that setting, and being able to use this as a place for gathering, could be helpful that way, those things.
But Mr. Chairman, we'll take a look at the language in consultation with Representative Miller, and then if Senator Kiefer has additional issues with it when we revisit it, we can talk about it.
Very good. We had some great input. I appreciate that. And we will work through that going forward. Dave, if you could talk about the next bill, please.
The next bill is Senate Bill 982. And actually, the next bill was the Home Rule Optional Plans Law, an amendment related to distressed municipalities. Mr. Chairman, I'd request, based on comments that we've had from other members, that we go over that bill.
I agree. Thank you. We can move on to the next then.
The next bill, Senate Bill 982, amending the second-class township code to provide for irrevocable letters of credit as an alternative to bonding. This is another one of those consistency issues where the other municipal codes allow municipalities to protect themselves through letters of credit rather than bonds. This would bring the second-class township code into consistency with the other municipal codes. The commission itself ran into this issue when it contracted for municipal codes where we had vendors that were saying that they had difficulty getting bonds. And they requested that we accept an irrevocable letter of credit as an alternative to the bond to protect the taxpayers in the contract price. So this is a relatively straightforward innovation to the second-class township code that would bring it into consonance with the other codes.
Any questions or comments on the bill? Do we have a consensus to move with this? Looks good.
I believe it. Go ahead.
Thank you. Representative James, we assume that you would like to continue as prime sponsor on that then in the House?
That would be fine. I think it's an important bill, and letters of credit are commonly used in banking and other forms of industry.
Very good. You certainly, this is definitely in your wheelhouse. We appreciate you prime sponsoring this bill for us. And we will contact Senator Dush and see if he will hold the Senate prime sponsorship. So thank you. Next,
Yes,
David.
Thank you. We can, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, we can talk about the next two bills together.
Great.
Title 8 is the Borough Code and the Second-Class Township Code. Both Senate Bills 1131 and Senate Bill 1289 would add innovations that already exist at the end of last session in the First-Class Township Code. These will run as a package, so we are hoping to get these done across the finish line. I believe the associations support the language. And what this would do is would allow us to streamline the process of filling a vacancy in a in a governing body's elected office if there is a stalemate. Right now, we have arbitrary timelines in the municipal codes that notwithstanding a stalemate, a municipality has to wait 30 days to fill a vacancy by action of its own governing body. And if they don't do so, they have an additional 15 days to fill it with the participation of a vacancy board chair. We have situations where you'll have two members of a governing body that will never agree on the appointment of their replacement, the third, and consequently, they still have to wait that 30-day limit. This seeks to truncate that. If there is disagreement and there's no reasonable basis upon which the governing body will fill the vacancy, they can go directly to the vacancy board proceeding. If the vacancy board chair is vacant, then they can go straight to the Court of Common Pleas. Furthermore, if a majority or more of the governing body is vacant, this would allow them to go with the remaining members or a petition of electors to go directly to the Court of Common Pleas to fill the vacancies in the governing body. The intent of this piece is solely to streamline the process around the arbitrary timelines that exist in statute currently that don't make sense when you want to keep government moving.
Very good. Do we have questions or comments from members? Senator Kiefer?
Real quickly, so if they go through this appointment process, the individuals who are appointed through this revised process, would an election be up the next cycle automatically? Okay, so they wouldn't be completing the term of each of those offices first.
The statute, Mr. Chairman, the statute already steps that out. If the vacancy occurs outside of 90 days, I believe it is, of the next election, okay, then at the next election they stand. If it occurs within that time frame, Senator, then they serve for the remainder of the term.
Further questions? Do we have a consensus to go with both of these bills, both for boroughs and second-class townships? Sounds like consensus. As far as the sponsors, David?
Yes, I believe that Senator Kim is willing to sponsor Senate Bill 1289.
Okay, great. Any other volunteers, House, Senate, or do we, have you heard from anyone else, Dave, or?
No, Senator, I do want to clear 1289 with Senator Carney.
Okay.
Because because of our prerogative of existing members priming.
Again, House Bill 2165 was Representative James and 2449 was Representative Freeman. I don't know if you folks are still interested in keeping prime sponsorships.
That'd be fine.
Thank
I have
you.
a comment.
Sure. Representative James?
I would propose that the new fearless leader of the Republican minority in the local government committee take this bill.
You're on the spot.
Unless he doesn't
Representative
want it.
Miller.
I respectfully decline to my esteemed and exalted former chair.
Oh,
Okay.
come, we're getting
Well,
so formal here. No.
I'm just trying to share. So, but yes, I would be pleased to do that with Bob.
Super. So we still have the Senate version
The Senate version of the Borough Code bill will be prime sponsored by Senator Committa. She will be introducing that. And then
Okay.
we'll have further consultation on the second class township code bill with Senators Carney
Okay.
and Kim.
Very good. So we have a little bit of work to do on some of these bills, but I thank the members for their comments and questions. I think we can build a better mousetrap using your comments, and we appreciate that very much. So I guess we are ready to move on to the next item on our agenda. Thank you again for your input, everybody, and thank you for those who have agreed to be prime sponsors. We will move on to the
Rent certificates in the book.
review and approval of the Local Government Commission 5-year report to the General Assembly.
Well,
A copy of that report is in your packet.
we have one more legislative initiative in the
Oh, I'm
packet, if
sorry.
you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
And you will see an amendment to Title 53, Section 2314 in your packet. Since the Intergovernmental Cooperation Law was enacted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's all right. Was enacted in 1972. The Local Government Commission has been charged with a statutory review of proposed agreements between a local government, the federal government, another state, or other local governments in other states. Now, this review is not seen as a veto. It is advisory only. Our review and the substance of it does not affect the efficacy of any agreement. We make suggestions as to form and compliance with the laws of the Commonwealth, but it is not an adjudication. The statute does require that local governments and participants to the contract, other governmental entities, submit the agreement to the commission. Now, history has proven that when these agreements are submitted to the commission, a lot of times the parties to the agreement are under a deadline to enter into the agreement. And as you can see from the existing statute, the commission has 90 days to review the agreement. And we often find ourselves in a position where we are calling special meetings, sometimes during the summer when the commission isn't available, even to review agreements, the substance of which is identical to prior agreements reviewed by the commission. So what this piece would do under the new proposed B1 is allow the executive director, with the participation of staff, to review an agreement upon notification to the commission if that agreement is substantially similar to one reviewed before. Let me give you an example. The commission has reviewed an agreement between the federal government, the Secret Service, and the city of Pittsburgh for the G8 summit. We looked at the applicable law, federal law. We looked at the law applicable to Pittsburgh under its home rule powers. We put together our advisory. The commission met. The commission voted to approve the review letter. Now that takes time. Excuse me, this proposal would allow us, if there was another G8 agreement with Pittsburgh or another municipality that had similar powers, for the executive director of the commission to cite the Pittsburgh agreement, notify the commission, send the review letter, and the commission would have time to object. Send the review letter post haste, and then within the next meeting of the commission, not occurring sooner than 60 days after the submission of the agreement, we would make the agreement transparent and the review letter that was submitted by the executive director. It's important to emphasize that every step in this process, the commission would have the option of initiating the formal review process. In other words, telling the executive director, we would prefer the normal channels. So this would just allow an option to streamline that process. Furthermore, you've seen from our 5-year report that we have fewer and fewer intergovernmental cooperation agreements that are occurring. But we want to make sure that the commission review process, because it is not talismanic from a legal point of view, does not interfere with the contracting powers of municipalities, the state government, the federal government, or other states. And two of those areas where it's most important are in the areas of law enforcement, where there is a lot of cooperation. We already have drug task forces. We have other types of intergovernmental cooperation in law enforcement and emergency services. So to the list of exceptions that are included in subsection C of 2314, we have agreements where a local government provides services to the federal government, to include, rope that in with services to the Commonwealth where it's expressly authorized by statute. And we also exempt from review local government agreements that involve law enforcement and emergency services. We believe that this is prudent. Ultimately, the decision of the legal efficacy of any agreement should be up to the respective legal counsels of the parties involved. And this procedural step in important issues like law enforcement or emergency services warrants exception in our view.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from members? I'm sorry I skipped this. This is one of the bill package, but as Dave said, we've had a few of these, and the time constraint does make things hairy sometimes, because getting a quorum of our members together and having a special meeting and all that on top of the review work they've had to do. It's I think that this bill will streamline that quite a bit and make it a simpler process. But I certainly want to hear what the members have to say. And Representative Miller, you have something?
Yeah, thank you. My question is foundational in the sense, why, in David, I guess, or someone here, your estimation, was it that the commission, or back whenever this was initially established, they wanted the oversight of this body? What was the motivation? And now we're saying, well, we can make it post facto.
There was never the intent that the commission would be doing something other than assisting the parties to the contract, specifically the local government involved, in the legal basis for the intergovernmental cooperation. Remember, this law came about, the Intergovernmental Cooperation Law, and at the same time, the commission involvement. We were involved in a lot of the innovations that arose from the '68 Constitution: intergovernmental cooperation, merger and consolidation, home rule. All of those innovations ended up in statutory language. Because we were involved, it was thought at the time, and I'm speaking for my predecessors here, that in the case of intergovernmental cooperation, it would be appropriate for the local government commission to weigh in on those contracts, but they were never intended, the opinion of the commission was never intended to supplant the will of those entities to enter into the contract.
Okay.
I hope that's being responsive, Representative.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just wondering if at least in my mind, additional language might need to be added to say something in light of the fact that, local government commission a review is advisory only, whatever. But the other thing is this, in nowadays, even at this meeting right here today, we have Zoom participation. So the commission could meet probably.
And that is how we did it.
On fairly short
Yeah.
order in any case. So I'm just wondering if we continue that in light of the Zoom component.
That is how we did it. But there's also the background work that David and company had to do prior to that.
Yeah, I think and remember this, the expedited process would only apply if we had already done a similar agreement. If we have an agreement that is a novel type of power sharing, for example, we had one time where a police force in Ohio wanted to enter into a cooperative agreement to patrol a municipality in Pennsylvania. And we wrote that agreement up, and we were sort of doubtful about the authority for the Ohio police force to patrol and exercise police powers in Pennsylvania limits. That was a novel situation. But like the example I used, if we've got another G8 summit, or from our 5-year report, you'll notice the last one that we did approved an agreement between the U.S. Marshal Service and a county for housing federal prisoners temporarily. Same statutory language, same county powers involved, same powers under the prison law. If we would get an agreement like that again, and this language were enacted, we could simply cite that prior approval and issue the response letter in an expedited form.
Okay, so with the proviso that this is advisory only, with the fact the language of B1 that it's review based only on precedental situations, and the fact that the board does afterwards approve officially, I think I'm okay with it. The only question I would have is this: what happens if we go through this and then the board says, well, we don't approve of that, and it's already done?
What if there is any doubt? And I can speak for myself as the executive director that would be implementing this law soonest if it becomes law. Whenever we receive the agreement, Chris, Marty, and I would look for an analog in our files. I would send that analog along with notification, because the law requires that I notify the commission. I would send the analog with a notification to the commission that I'm going to invoke B.1, this new subsection. Any member during that period could object to it, or Chairman Hutchinson could say, slow down a minute. I don't think your analog fits with this particular situation. Now, we've never had, to answer your other question, we've never had a situation where commission review has been vetoed by the commission, knock wood, that I'm aware of. Okay? Because it's strictly reporting. What we are doing is reporting on the applicable provisions of law that authorize the local government and sometimes the other party to enter into the agreement. We are avoiding legal conclusions. And in fact, in the piece, we say that it's advisory in each of our memoranda. And we also say that ultimately the legal decision, the efficacy of the agreement, is up to the legal consultants of the parties.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Just to add to that, I think it's been our interpretation of the statute as it exists now and as it would continue to exist, that there is no condition precedence of LGC approval that stands in the way or enables the ultimate execution of the agreement. I think that their only requirement is to submit it for review. We really would have no recourse if the parties submitted the agreement for review and then signed the next day.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative James.
it feels like we might be fixing something that isn't broken. Dave, would you be kind enough to explain, and I'm sorry if you have to repeat, kind enough to explain where we are today if we don't do this?
Yes, sir. Where we are today is, and let's take the federal marshal's case, for example. If I would get a call from an attorney, a county solicitor, that says that their county was prepared to enter into a contract with the federal marshal service, and they need to submit their agreement to us. The way our process works currently is when I receive the agreement, I would notify Chairman Hutchinson and the other members of the commission. It typically takes us on a regular review, all right, probably a week to make sure that we have our legal T's crossed and our I's dotted. But it would still require, even though the legal mechanism was the same as the agreement we reviewed before, for us to schedule a special meeting of a quorum of the commission, the preparation of the report prior to that meeting, and then the commission to officially vote in public on the approval of the submission letter. All right? Given that this is advisory alone, we believed that in the case where it's duplicative of a priorly approved letter, it makes more sense, it makes valid sense for us to simply notify the commission and issue a similar letter for the new agreement. Without having to call a special meeting, we could take that business up at the next commission meeting or the one following it.
That helps, but it still feels like we're fixing something that isn't broken to me. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, if the expedited review is incapable of consensus at this point, is there consensus on the exceptions, the additional exceptions for law enforcement and emergency services?
That is a question for the members. And
For my part, if I may, I'm okay with both.
well, Dave, why don't you come up with that alternative version and we can talk about it.
All right, sounds good. Thank
Future.
you.
Thank you. We are running a little
Yes.
long, but we've had some great input and I appreciate that. We will jump real quickly to the report to the General Assembly, our 5-year report, and that is included in your packets. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we can authorize the issuance of the report, I've already had some feedback from some members, and we wanted to emphasize textually and otherwise that the inclusion of the observations of the municipal associations and stakeholders, that does not mean that that is the official policy or there is any endorsement of that comment by any local government commission. That is currently included in the report. I wanted to thank the associations for their participation and comments that are included in the report. I think it's a useful innovation. But if anybody has any other questions or further edits to the report, those are all that I've received thus far from the commission members.
Dave, as we spoke earlier, I think this report is very comprehensive. Talks about I had forgotten so many of the things that we have done in the last 5 years. It's a great body of work. It's something we should all be proud of. I think it is reflected very well within the report. It also I am pleased that we did allow our allies, the groups that we work closely with to also submit comments to be included in the report. So I'm going to thank everyone who's done the work behind the report, as well as those who've helped put the report together. I think it's a great product. I don't know if any other members have comments, but I'll just say great job.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So we will. Do we have? We need a motion and a second to to approve the report to the General Assembly.
So
Motion-
moved.
Representative Freeman, Representative Miller. Any negative votes? Hearing none, we have approved the 5-year report. And I again want to thank everyone for this great product and for all the work that is reflected within that plan. So we are going to move on real quickly to other business. And David, I'll turn that to you.
Yes, quickly, Mr. Chairman, March 26th, there's our next meeting in this room, 5:15. President Pro Tempore Ward will be joining us and formally reorganizing the commission at that time. And then that afternoon, we will have our first public hearing on the Act 38 study involving automated speed enforcement. Julia is joining us remotely, but we'll get an update on that at a later time. We are soliciting speakers at this time. All second-class township code supplements have been distributed. Special thanks to House Printing for their role in that and saving us costs in the long run. And special thanks to Sonia, our codes administrator, Rex and Karen, who did the lion's share of the work. And we have had brief meetings with all of the municipal associations on their legislative priorities. So we will be revisiting some new concepts. I anticipate in April, we will be bringing what we've discussed today and perhaps a few new innovations to the commission to consider at that time. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any further business? Seeing none, I want to thank everyone for attending today, and I will adjourn this meeting.